The Phillies fought off elimination. The offense finally woke up. They lived to fight another day. How in the world did they figure it out? And can they do it again tonight? We'll break it all down on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On Phillies is your number one place for daily Philadelphia Phillies content Monday through Friday. Appreciate you joining us. You might know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic for the past 6 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for the past 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Oh, the Phillies survive their first elimination spot. They take down the Dodgers in Game 3, 8-2. The offense wakes up, and to me, the performance of the game had to be Kyle Schwarber. But he was not alone, man. We'll talk about the top 3 in the order and then finally waking up. We're going to credit Rob Thomson later on in the episode because he made what turned out to be a strong pitching decision with how he handled Aaron Nola and Ranger Suarez. I was very critical of that. So I got to tell you, I was wrong, and I will do that later on in the episode. And then tonight, no rest, folks. The Phillies are facing elimination again. Can they win Game 4? Can they force a Game 5 back here at Citizens Bank Park? Sanchez on the mound, facing off against Tyler Glasnow. I'll just give you a little tease. I love that matchup. But we got to talk about last night first because the Phillies offense finally woke up. They got down 1-0 in that game in the third inning because Ranger Suarez comes in, relieves Aaron Nola, and he immediately, first pitch, gives up a bomb to Tommy Edman. And my immediate thought is, here we go again. Rob Thomson said before the game they were going to do this, or he basically implied that, Ranger's going to be in pretty quick. Nola's just getting us started. And then you bring in Ranger, and the very first pitch, he gives up a bomb. My God, how bad can this series get? And the Phillies offense didn't look great against Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And then in the bottom of the fourth, Kyle Schwarber hits a ball that left the damn stadium. I mean, this dude is unbelievable. He's now third all-time in Major League Baseball history in postseason home runs, by the way. For anyone who's like, Schwarber's not getting the job done in the postseason. He hasn't been a big enough postseason performer. Sure, there have been stretches, but the dude is one of the top 3 guys in the history of the game. 23 career postseason home runs for Kyle Schwarber. That's just flat out ridiculous. And you know the moment that I knew that the Philadelphia Phillies had figured it out? It was not the Kyle Schwarber home run. It's that Bryce Harper came up after Kyle Schwarber just absolutely ended the life of a baseball at Bryce Harper singles. And that was where it was like, oh, okay. Because you can hit a long home run, and then, like you saw with Tommy Edman, right? Edman goes yard, feels like the Dodgers have figured something out, and then Ranger just settles in, gets out of the inning, no worries, throws 5 innings, gets through all of his work. And we're going to talk about the pitchers coming up in the next segment. So I will get to them and the manager, who I think had a really, really good game last night. But when Harper singles after Schwarber hits that home run, then you're like, okay, it's not just a homer and then they're done like Schwarber ran into one. It was the boys got a little bit of life. And then they roll into that, and Harper tries to go first to third, which was a dumb decision, but throw from center field gets away from Max Muncy over there at third base, and the next thing you know, he's scoring, and then Bohm's getting to third, and then Brandon Marsh hitting the sacrifice fly, and all of a sudden, the Phils are up 3-1. And that was like, finally, the breakthrough moment for the Phils. But then they quieted down a little bit in this one, and I'll tell you, I got a little bit nervous when they were quieting down in the middle innings there. Now, Ranger was shoving, so that's what's good. You needed the pitching to keep you alive in this game because every inning it felt like, opportunity. Second and third, no outs, nothing. Then, you get a base runner on the starting inning, nothing. It took till the 8th inning for the Phils to add on. So if you look at it and you're like, well, really from innings 5, 6, and 7, they didn't have anything going. Okay, you can say that, but that was also the point where Dave Roberts started to go to his bullpen, and he had some of his big matchup guys available. And then Clayton Kershaw comes in for the 7th, and he gets out of the 7th because of some bad base running by Kyle Schwarber. But Dave Roberts leaves him in for the 8th. And the Phillies took absolute advantage. How about JT Realmuto, man? A home run in the 8th to extend the lead to 4-1. That dude has been really good in this series against the Dodgers. He's kind of become a footnote in this series only because the top 3 of the Phillies order in Harper, Schwarber, and Turner have gotten so much play, right? Because of their deficiencies. 2 for 21 in the first 3 games. By the way, they were 7 for 13 with 5 RBIs and 2 home runs last night. Like that's production right there. When the top 3 in your order hit over 500 for a game, you're going to win that game. But JT hits a big-time extending home run. And then you got Trey Turner driving runners in. And then Schwarber hits another one. And the floodgates were just open. And Dave Roberts left Clayton Kershaw out there to die on the mound, which one heck of a retirement present for Clayton Kershaw. I mean, my goodness. The dude announces he's going to retire, and that's what you do to him in front of the home crowd at Dodger Stadium. But, that's something that's going to be really interesting because in the moment, you're just thinking, wow, we got to get to tomorrow. But now you get to think a little bit more of what was the next step of that strategy from the Dodgers? And what was the next step of the strategy from the Phillies? Getting 7 total innings out of Nola and Ranger sets you up for a good use of your bullpen today, right? Because you got pretty much everybody available. So that's a great thing. But when you look at Clayton Kershaw staying out there for the Dodgers, I think that was Dave Roberts saying, okay, if we lose today, that's all right because we're still up 2-1 in the series and we have another home game. And we don't want to burn a bunch of guys in the bullpen if this gets ugly. So, Kersh, you're going to have to go out there and wear this one a little bit if it gets ugly. I think that's kind of what it was, but we'll take it because at that point when Clayton Kershaw went back out for the 8th inning, it was a 3-1 ball game. I mean, the Dodgers were absolutely within striking distance, and the Phillies bullpen has been bad. I think that was David Robertson moment where Rob Thomson let him go for a 2nd inning in game 1. You know what? Little PSA for everybody out there. If you just happen to be the manager of a Major League Baseball team and you have a pitcher that is around 40 years old, they don't get multiple innings in the postseason. It just doesn't work. But thank you, Dave Roberts. The Phillies will absolutely take it. Like, what did they do differently in game 3 that they didn't do in games 1 and 2 that led to them being so successful, right? What changed? Did you notice anything when you were watching the game last night? Was the approach different? I got to tell you, I don't think the approach was too much different for some of the guys. They were working pitchers earlier on in the series. They just weren't cashing in. They swung at first pitches last night at points, but they were hitting them. Sometimes it's more of just a belief type of factor. That's what I think changed for the Phillies more than anything. Because pressing, and a lot of conversation was had by the Philadelphia Phillies between games 2 and 3 about pressing, about trying too hard. The manager was saying the Stars are trying too hard. Alec Boehm was talking about trying too hard sometimes. The Stars were adamant, we're not trying to do too much. But you could see it, right? I had this argument on air radio yesterday where we were talking about Kyle Schwarber, and it was just like, why doesn't he try and hit singles? And my response was, that dude ain't here to hit singles. Harper can hit for average. Turner should hit for average. But Schwarber's here to hit the ball out of Dodger Stadium. And that's what he did last night. But sometimes pressing is just like a mentality. It's not even necessarily an approach. You get up there, and if you've ever played a sport, you know how it goes. Let's take basketball, for example. When the ball's not going in, you might not be forcing difficult shots. You might have wide open looks at the rim. But if you're not going good, you're not going good. Mentally, you're like, I got to make this next shot. And the pressure you put on yourself psychs yourself out. And once you kind of see one go in, which is what I think that Kyle Schwarber bomb home run was. The Phillies hadn't hit a home run in this series prior to that. Once that goes out of the yard and goes out by a mile, I think that was the exhale of like, oh, okay. This baseball bat I'm holding in my hands, it still can make contact with that baseball that guy's throwing. It wasn't like they had a much different approach from how they were attacking pitchers, because I think their approach against pitchers has been solid as a lineup, right? You don't just look at the top three for approach. When you talk about how you're trying to attack a pitcher, you look at everybody. Brandon Marshall's had some good at-bats. JT Realmuto's had some good at-bats. Max Kepler has had some good at-bats. Harrison Bader has had some good at-bats. Some of the guys in the bottom part of the order have been doing it. The big guys were putting a lot of pressure on themselves. They felt like they would never hit a home run again, I'm sure. And then you go out and do it. Now, will that momentum carry over? I mean, there's a famous saying about baseball that momentum is the next day's starting pitcher. So it's anybody's guess. But we'll talk about that later. We have to talk about yesterday's starting pitcher first, though, and the reliever, and the manager who decided it was the way he wanted to go. Because I'm giving credit to Rob Thomson after I blasted him in the first two games of this series. We will talk about that as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Ruggie at first, though, because, guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Ruggie Go Long. Ruggie Go Long comes in with just not another ED pill. No, it's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines two doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can get hard and go the distance. You want your Kyle Schwarber moment where you feel like you're hitting it out of the stadium? Yeah, well, Ruggie can help you with that. The process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. If prescribed, it's easy, right? So you don't have to worry about anyone noticing what you're getting or going to a doctor's office. Super, super simple, and it works. So if you're ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom, head to Rugiet.com and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB, and make sure to use our code so that they know we sent you. Rob Thomson, I'm not going to apologize. Nope, I'm not. Because if you've heard Locked On Phillies the last couple of days, you know I've been crushing the manager. And if you haven't heard Locked On Phillies the last couple of days, become one of our everydayers. Join in on the Locked On Phillies family. Subscribe to the YouTube if you're watching us on YouTube today. And please make sure that you're rating and reviewing if you're listening in podcast form. All of that's free and easy to do. But when you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, it'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. When you like the podcast, when you review the podcast, it's easier for you to find. And we're available Monday through Friday every day. And we got reaction videos and stuff like that. There's a lot of great things here on the Locked On Phillies channel, just in general, that I want you to be a part of. If you are an everydayer also, you might recognize, if you're watching on YouTube, I got the victory shirt back on. I wore it last night for Game 3 as the Phils face elimination. This shirt has saved seasons past, and maybe it saved this one. But I think what really saved this one is the Phillies finally playing good baseball. And some credit to that goes to the offense, and some credit to that goes to the pitching. So, like I was saying, I blasted Rob Thomson for his decision to keep Dave Robertson in the game in Game 1. I blasted Rob Thomson for his decision to have Bryson stop bunt in the 9th inning with all the momentum in the world in Game 2. And you think back and you're like, man, how different could this series have been if one or two decisions went differently? But hey, that ain't how baseball works. That ain't how life works. What happens, happens. You got to react to it. And Rob Thomson reacted to what happened in Games 1 and 2 by giving the ball to Aaron Nola in an elimination game. This dude with a 6-something ERA His postseason ERA isn't even like that great. He's got like a 4-something ERA in the postseason, which is better than his numbers this season. But I said it yesterday. I hate the decision to give Aaron Nola this start. But I did say there was only one way that it could acceptably work. And that's if Nola has a very short leash and Ranger Suarez is the next guy up. And that's exactly what they did. Now, that doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. So I'm not saying, see, I called it. But knowing when and knowing how and making that decision is all on the manager. And Rob Thomson handled it perfectly. I don't know if he went to Nola and he was like, you're getting 2 innings tonight. I think the plan, from what I had heard, was to try and get him through 3 innings and get him through 9 outs. But he did have a little bit of traffic on the base pass in the first inning. Credit to Brandon Marsh, sarcastic credit, for diving at a single from Mookie Betts and turning it into a triple. But maybe there was something with that. Either way, the combination of Nola and Suarez going 7 innings, allowing only 1 earned run to that Dodgers lineup and really baffling a lot of the Dodgers hitters, keeping them very off balance. It worked, man. And that's the ultimate response to a strategy, right? When you see that there are 6 hits allowed, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts in 7 innings between those 2 guys, you say, mission accomplished, Rob Thomson. Great decision. And he gets credit for that. And that way, you only had to go with Orion Kerkering for 1 inning, and he got the job done. Credit to Orion Kerkering. Clean inning. He looks like a different guy. And then Taijuan Walker goes 2/3 of an inning. Tanner Banks gets 1 out, and the ball game's over. That's simple. There was no major stress on the bullpen last night. And the 8th inning helped with that. But remember, this was a game that was tight until the 8th inning. And you got a strategy from your manager that was able to save a bunch of your big boys for tonight. Winning while also playing a strategy that saves guys is the key to postseason success. So credit to Rob Thomson. But unless my television was messed up, I don't believe Rob Thomson threw a single pitch last night. So we also have to give credit to the guys. Just like I'm not apologizing to Rob Thomson, because I will stand by my comments about him screwing up games 1 and 2 in this series, or at least having a really big part in why the Phillies lost those games. I will not apologize to Aaron Nola for my thought about him starting game 3. Now, I will say, hand up, I was wrong. I hated this decision. And part of the reason I hated this decision was because I didn't have faith in Aaron Nola. And he proved me wrong. So I'm glad to be wrong. I will admit when I'm wrong. And he didn't do anything right spectacular. But you saw old Aaron Nola. Here's the real interesting thing. And we're not remotely in the think about future series conversation. Like, you got an elimination game, 6:08 p.m. tonight out in LA against the Dodgers team stacked with stars that wants to finish things off and not take it back to the bank. So we're not there. But Nola throwing 95 last night compared to what we saw this year, which was like 91, 92. Now, he knew he had a short leash, so he could let a little bit more rip, exert more effort into his pitches. And when Aaron Nola was at his best in his career, he was throwing about 95 miles an hour. So maybe you're getting a guy in these short spurts that seems to really be able to tap back into the old velocity, which creates more opportunity for that big breaking ball he has. So credit to Aaron Nola. And I think that spot of like opener, just like a 2-inning opener, 3-inning opener, might really suit him if this Phillies playoff run continues. And Ranger Suarez, man, just so mentally tough. He really is. Not only because he gave up a home run on the first pitch that he threw in this game, but because game 1, he probably knew Sanchez was starting. I think all the Phillies did. But back of your mind, you're probably like, hey, I'd like to have the ball tonight, even though they were never going to do that. And then game 2, Jesus Luzardo gets a start. And Rangers probably like, hey, I'd like to have the ball tonight. And then game 3, Rangers like, well, now it's my turn. And they decide to go with Nola. And Rangers probably like, I'd like to start tonight. All that can mentally get in the head of a pitcher, right? Not just the home run given up, but the team starting 3 other guys over you. Whether it was strategy to put you in a better situation or not, it's very hard to stay locked in that situation. Lesser men would be like, My mood all week is screw this team and screw this manager because they're not giving me my opportunity. I'm about to be a free agent. Y'all are costing me money. He doesn't care. He just went out there and dominated the way we know that Ranger Suarez can dominate. Now, I'm not in the business of looking back and saying, well, what if you threw him in relief game one? Because maybe you throw him in relief game one and you win that game. But then they've seen Ranger and they've seen his stuff, and he's not as effective in this situation in game three. So, I don't know. We're not rewriting history here, but he looked really darn good. And he threw a total of 72 pitches, which means you could go with him for an inning or two in game five if and when you get there. So, a great handling of the pitching staff by Rob Thomson. It feels good, again, to say, hey, good job to the manager, because there have been so few things to say good job to him about in the 3 games of this series. I'll give credit always when credit is due. I'll give blame when blame is due. But last night, the Philadelphia Phillies clicked on all cylinders when you look at the game in total. There were some hectic moments, as there will always be in postseason baseball. But an 8-2 victory with your backs up against the wall feels like you can finally breathe. But breathing doesn't necessarily mean that you're handling all your business, right? You got to win another game tonight. And then you'd have to win another game at the bank. So a long way to go. Just like Phillies player said, hey, Dodgers haven't won 3 yet. Phillies ain't won 3 yet. Heck, they haven't even won 2 yet. How do they win tonight with another elimination game on the docket? We will talk about that, the strategy, the starters, and why I really like the Phillies in this matchup tonight as we continue today's episode. But first, let's talk about our friends over at Game Time. They are the absolute best. And folks, if you were happy about last night's game, Game Time users are probably happy about last night's game, because there's a chance if the Phillies win tonight, they'll play a home game. So there's nothing like catching baseball live, especially the postseason, a game 5 in Philadelphia. Could you imagine how amazing that would be? We're 1 win away from making that happen. And Game Time is a place where you want to go. When the Phillies win tonight, hop right on Game Time and get your tickets. Or if you want to wait, you can get tickets right ahead of first pitch for Game 5 back here in Philadelphia if and when it happens, because Game Time, the prices go down the closer you get to first pitch, even with the postseason. And they are the best. Don't worry about queues or login screens or surprise fees. Game Time takes care of all of that for you. Plus, you got the Game Time guarantee, which means you're always going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time. And like I said, at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. You've heard me talk about Game Time a billion times. And the reason why is I use it when I go to games. You should too. It takes all the hassle and the stress out of buying tickets, because God knows Philadelphia fans do not need any more stress in their lives. So you want a stress-free ticket buying experience, not just for baseball, but for all your sports, comedy, concerts, theater, anything you need a ticket for. Well, download the Game Time app and create an account, and make sure you use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, and download Game Time today. Cristopher Sanchez gets the ball in Game 4. Season on the line. Let me just remind you real quick what Sanchez was able to do in Game 1 against the Dodgers. He did not get the win in the game, obviously. The Phillies' first win was last night, but Sanchez was really good. He went 5 2/3. He gave up 2 earned. He struck out 8. Now, he lost it a little bit there in the 6th inning, and he gave up those 2 earned runs. But at the end of the day, you can't just read the box score on it. If you were watching that game, he was dominant. And the Dodgers lefties had no answer for him or his brutal changeup. I expect to see more of that tonight. The question is, how long of a leash are you giving to Cristopher Sanchez? I'm looking at trying to get 4 or 5 innings out of him. And you might say, well, Connor, that's light. Shouldn't it be go as long as he can go? If you get done the 5th inning and he's at 70 pitches, he goes back out for the 6th, just like he did in Game 1. You will take your chances with that every time. But I'm just saying, if he's laboring through and you get through 4 or 5, I'm not trying to force him anywhere past that. He could throw 6. He could throw 7. Heck, he could throw 8 if he really has his good stuff tonight and the game opens up for it. But the key is to get through 5 and get through 5 with a marginable score. 1 or 2 earned, right? That's the baseline level of success for Chris Sanchez, and everything is gravy. You still got Walker Buehler waiting in the pen, who has not thrown yet in this series. Taijuan Walker did not throw too much last night. He threw 2/3 of an inning. But we're in good shape when it comes to where the bullpen is at as far as availability, right? So that's why I don't want to press the issue with Sanchez, even though he's been awesome all year for the Phillies. You don't want to, here's the thing. Game 1, he looked really good until he didn't. You kind of want to jump the gun if you have to, right? You'd rather be on the early side than the late side. At least that's how I feel when it comes to managing a postseason bullpen. Now, the Dodgers are going with the guy that the Phillies have seen, but it is not the man that started Game 1. No, the Dodgers are trying to limit the use on Shohei Ohtani's arm, which to me, part of me understands it. Part of me, if I'm doing Locked On Dodgers today, I'm saying, why the heck is this guy not getting the baseball? I'm a little bit nervous about where the Phils are at right now in this series. They feel like they got momentum, and now we're throwing Tyler Glasnow, who struggled against the Phillies when he first pitched in this series. Now Glasnow threw, but he did not have too much success against the Philadelphia Phillies in his first outing of the series. And remember, Glasnow also got touched up by the Phillies in Philadelphia earlier this season, where he just looked like he didn't have it. In Game 1, he goes out there and he throws an inning and 2/3. He allows 2 hits. He walks 2. He strikes 2 out. Now, he didn't give up a run, but I don't think I would have given up a run against the Phillies offense in Game 1, man. Yeah, they were struggling to put bat on baseball, especially the top of the order. But Glasnow's a guy that, one, it seems like the game really speeds up on him sometimes. Like, he's a very affected pitcher. I talked about that with the Luzardo versus Ranger decision for who should start Game 2. Luzardo's more affected by outside influence, right? Situationally. Ranger's not. Glasnow is more of the affected by outside influence guy. So if you can get on him early, maybe Schwarber hits another one, 5 billion feet. Maybe Harper runs into his first home run of the series. Who knows? I don't care who it is. But you get on him in inning 1 or 2, you might see an unraveling there from Tyler Glasnow. You've kind of seen that throughout this year for him with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I imagine they're going to have a quick hook. But the other thing that's great that I really like about Glasnow starting this game, he's a righty, which means those lefties that were a huge part of last night's game in Kyle Schwarber, in Bryce Harper, I mean, you are going to see them have advantageous, I almost said advantageous, which is not the way to pronounce that, advantageous matchups against Tyler Glasnow tonight. So that's the number one reason why I like the Phillies tonight. I said it on air this morning on radio. I'll bring it to the podcast. I don't think Glasnow gets out of the 4th inning. I don't. Part of that is I don't think the Dodgers will let him go that far. Part of that is I think the Phillies are going to jump on him early. I just get the sense that this team has a little spark for the first time in what feels like forever. Like, think about the last time the Phillies won a postseason game. It was back last year in Game 2 at the bank against the Mets. It was the Nick Castellanos game, but that game was back and forth and extra innings, and Nick Castellanos hits the walk-off. I forget if it was a double or a single, but it was down the line. Doesn't really matter because it was the walk-off hit. But even that game wasn't, comfortable. The Phillies, for the past, 2 years and change, have felt like they've labored through every single postseason game that they've played. Last night was the first one that was like, whew, kick your feet up, relax, and this one's done. And does that momentum finally break through and carry over? Because you might say they won a postseason game last year and then they lost the next 2. Okay, I understand where you're coming from, but this win felt different. It felt like they found something, whether that's something they saw at the plate, whether that's the meeting that they had ahead of the game. Yeah, Trey Turner talked about it, how the guys kind of got together. They just had a team meeting and basically hey, wipe what happened, focus on tonight, stop pressing, just do your job. And relax and try and enjoy it, man. Playoff baseball, it's an opportunity. Like I don't know what it was as far as mentality that totally shifted, but if you didn't feel a shift last night in this series, I don't know what you were watching. Now, can it quickly shift back? Absolutely. We just saw the Yankees get bounced last night by the Blue Jays after a monster game 3 out of them to fight off elimination. You still got to take care of business night in and night out. So, do I think the Phils win tonight? I'll tell you, I do. Is it going to be tough? I'll tell you it is. Are we talking about the Phillies still having a season tomorrow? Man, shrug of the shoulders. God only knows. But it is good to survive another day. And I said it yesterday at the end of the podcast. I will say it again. Kevin Millar, 4 days in October, the 30 for 30 on the Boston Red Sox back in 2004 when they made the 3-0 comeback against the Yankees. He said, don't let us win tonight because tomorrow we got our guy going, Pedro Martinez for them. Then we got Schilling going. Then who knows, or whatever the lineup was. I said it yesterday. Don't let the Phillies win tonight because then we got Sanchi going tomorrow. And now we're here. One more game back at the bank. I wouldn't want to be the Dodgers right now, but we'll see how it plays out. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. We'll be reacting to Game 4 of the NLDS tomorrow, hopefully as positively as this, hopefully with the victory shirt still on. We'll be watching the game. Oh, and also, I'll be on postcast tonight. Mark Farzetta has some stuff because the Eagles play. So I'm going to be doing the immediate 15-minute reaction show. I'll have my immediate video, and I'll have the full episode tomorrow. So you're getting plenty of Connor over these next 24 hours. But that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that stuff that really helps us out. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Another heart attack of a game coming tonight, and we'll break it down on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.